against the relentless sea. The engine started before dawn, coughing once like an old smoker, and then settling into a steady growl. The deck lights cut pale circles into the darkness, revealing ropes stiff with salt, crates stacked like tired soldiers, and the restless shine of the ocean beyond the rails. I had been working on fishing boats for nearly 10 years, but that morning carried a weight I could not name, as if the sea itself was holding its breath. We pushed off while the sky was still black, the harbor lights shrinking behind us. Long hours were nothing new to us. On a fishing boat, time bends and stretches until days feel like weeks. You sleep when you can, work when you must, and learn to measure life in tides and catches. The captain stood at the helm with his jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the horizon. He had checked the weather report twice, maybe 3 times, but the season was short and the debts were long. Turning back was never an easy choice. By mid-morning, the wind began to rise. It started as a low whistle through the rigging, then grew into something louder, more demanding. The waves followed, rolling beneath us like the backs of giant animals. At first, the boat answered them well, lifting and falling with a rhythm we all knew by heart. We worked in silence, hauling nets heavy with fish, our hands burning from rope and cold. Each pull felt slower than the last, as if the sea was resisting us on purpose. The storm did not arrive suddenly. It built itself piece by piece, patiently. Clouds gathered and thickened until the sky turned the color of wet steel. Rain followed, sharp and slanted, stinging our faces and soaking our clothes within minutes. The deck became slick, and every step demanded full attention. Still, we kept working. Long hours at sea teach you endurance, but they also teach you stubbornness, and sometimes the two are impossible to separate. By afternoon, the waves were no longer rolling, they were rising. Walls of water lifted the boat and dropped it again with bone-shaking force. Crates slid despite being tied down, and loose tools clanged and skittered across the deck. The engine strained, its steady growl turning into an angry roar. The captain shouted orders that were torn apart by the wind, forcing us to read his lips and gestures instead. Fear arrived quietly. It slipped in between tasks, in the pause before the next wave hit, in the way each of us checked the horizon a little too often. I'd been scared before, but this was different. This was not the sharp fear of an accident or a sudden mistake. This was a deep, spreading certainty that something had gone wrong and could not easily be fixed. Then the boat lurched hard to port, throwing 2 men against the rail. A wave, taller than the rest, crashed over us, filling the deck with freezing water. For a moment, everything blurred. Salt, rain, shouted curses, the scream of metal under pressure. The bilge alarm began to howl, a thin, desperate sound that cut through the storm. Water was getting in. We moved faster then, exhaustion forgotten. Pumps were switched on, hatches checked, hands flying over familiar tasks. But the sea was faster. Another wave slammed into us, and another. Each impact felt like a blow from a giant fist. The boat no longer rode the waves. It fought them, stubbornly, angrily, losing ground with every minute. I remember gripping a rope and realizing my hands were shaking, not from the cold, but from the effort of holding myself together. Around me, faces were pale, eyes wide, yet focused. No one screamed. No one panicked. There is a strange dignity in shared danger, a quiet agreement to do your job even when the outcome is uncertain. The list grew worse. The deck tilted at an angle that made walking nearly impossible. Water sloshed around our boots, heavy and relentless. The captain gave the order we had all been waiting for and dreading. Prepare to abandon ship. Hearing it spoken aloud made the situation suddenly real in a way nothing else had. We struggled into life jackets as the boat shuddered beneath us. The engine coughed again, then fell silent. Without it, the storm seemed louder, closer, as if it had been waiting for this moment. One final wave struck us broadside, and the boat leaned, groaned, and did not come back. I went into the water with no sense of direction, only cold and darkness and the violent pull of the sea. The ocean was no longer something I worked with. It was something I survived. Waves rolled over me, filling my mouth with salt, stealing my breath. I clung to a piece of floating debris, every muscle screaming as I fought to stay above the surface. Time lost meaning. There was only the rise and fall, the endless effort to breathe, the distant shapes of others doing the same. Eventually, the storm began to loosen its grip. The waves shrank, The wind softened, and the sky lightened just enough to remind me that the world still existed beyond the water. When rescue finally came, it felt unreal, like waking from a long, brutal dream. We were pulled from the sea one by one, silent and exhausted, eyes burning with salt and emotion. The boat was gone, swallowed completely, leaving only scattered debris and memories behind. Long hours on a fishing boat teach you many lessons about patience, endurance, and the quiet strength of people who work where land ends. But the most important lesson came from that storm. The ocean does not care how hard you work or how long your hours are. It demands respect, and sometimes, no matter how much you give, it takes more.